Hare Krishna Prabhus. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhare Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhare Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Reading from Canto 7, The Science of God, Chapter 7, What Prahlad Maharaj Learned in the Womb, Text number 49. Sarvesham api bhutanam harir atmeshwara priyaha bhutair mahadbhi swakritai kritanam jiva samgitaha. Sarveshamapi bhutanam harir atmeshwara priyaha bhutair mahadbhi swakritai kritanam jiva samgitaha. Would anyone like to try to read the verse?
Sarvesham api bhutanam harir at Eshvara priyaha bhutar mahadibhi swa bhutar mahadbhi swakritai kritanam jivasam gitaha.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Sarvesham api bhutanam hariratmeshvara priya bhutair mahadbhi swakritai kritanam jiva samgitaha.
Thank you, Prabhu. Sarvesham of all, api certainly, Bhutanam living entities, Harihi the Lord, who mitigates all the miseries of the living entity, Atma the original source of life, Ishvaraha the complete controller, Priyaha the dear, Bhutaihi by the separated energies, the five material elements, Mahadbihi emanating from the total material energy, the Mahat Tattva, Swakritaihi, which are manifested by himself, Kritanam, created, Jiva Samgitaha, who is also known as the living entity, since the living entities are expansions of his marginal energy. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is the soul and the supersoul of all living entities. Every living entity is a manifestation of his energy in terms of the living soul and the material body. Therefore, the Lord is the most dear, and he is the supreme controller. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is manifested by his different energies, the material energy, the spiritual energy, and the marginal energy. He is the original source of all living entities in the material world. and he is situated in everyone's heart as a supersoul. Although the living entity is the cause of his various types of bodies, the body is given by material nature according to the order of the Lord. Ishvaraha sarvabhutanam hridesharjuna tishtati pramayan sarvabhutani yantrarudhani mayaya. Quote, the Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities, who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. Bhagavad Gita 1861. The body is just like a machine, a car, in which living entity is given a chance to sit and move according to his desire. The Lord is the original cause of the material body and the soul, which is expanded by his marginal energy. The Supreme Lord is the dearmost object of all living entities. Prahlad Maharaj therefore advised his class friends, the sons of the demons, to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead again. Om Jnana Narayanam namaskritam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudhirayet nashtaprayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatutama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschadyate Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarvesham api bhutanam harir atmeshwara priyaha Bhutar mahadbi swakritai kritanam jiva samgitaha. Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is the soul and the supersoul of all living entities. Every living entity is a manifestation of his energy in terms of the living soul and the material body. Therefore, the Lord is the most dear and he is the supreme controller. In a society that is Prahlad Maharaj is preaching, in a society where there is one entity and this entity is controlling the weather. So Hiranyakashipu had the technology, the mystic power to control the weather. He was able to control the heating, the lighting, movement of the wind, the seasons, not only on his capital, the planet on which he had established his capital, but also the entire universe. So this was one person who was able to control summer, winter, spring, and the fall. He was able to control the availability of minerals, the availability of diamonds, cobalt. So the society didn't really run on batteries. They were running on other technologies. But he was able to control this. He had an intelligence agency to actually monitor the entire the sentiment around how the people felt about his rulership. Not only, again, on the planet where his capital city was, but the entire universe. He knew his influence was practically spread everywhere. And so, because he was controlling all these technologies he had these technologies to control all the functions, basic functions of nature, basic functions that living entities depend on. They need water, they need electricity or fire, they need air, fresh air to breathe, air to cool things down. They also need information technology, um, abilities to communicate in far distance places. They also needed energy for transportation. So on this planet, we use internal combustion engines. Other planets, they use advanced technology like Vimana. Something that's as, I guess, advanced that we know of on this planet is called an Alcubierre drive. So this is uh, a machine on how to bend space, and then you use the tendency of space to want to return to equilibrium to actually propel faster than the speed of light. So this technology, top secret, but it's actually available on this planet. So you can actually move faster than the speed of light. So this kind of technology was available, and Hiranyakashipu was actually controlling it. So for all intents and purposes, Hiranyakashipu could, and he did, make the declaration that he was God. Who could dispute him? So similarly, we are in the same situation as Prahlad Maharaj, where a new technology has entered our midst, artificial intelligence. So most persons, when they use artificial intelligence, they're not cognizant of how they think, of how it actually works, right? Because when you actually remember how it works, then you don't make the mistake that this could be conscious, right? So the way it works is if I say a word to you like old, and I ask you, okay, predict the next word. Some people might say old age. Um, Actually, let's just do the exercise. Okay. Okay, old. Can anyone predict the next word?
Man.
Okay, old man. Any other suggestions? Okay, so old man, we could have old woman, old dog, old apartment. So there's many words that could come next, right? If I say now old MacDonald, what is the next word? Yes, should have.
Had a farm.
Correct. Correct. That's precisely how AI works, right? So you give it context, and based on the context, it can predict the next word. So it's a probability machine. It's a statistical machine. So once humans are able to do this, right? So data scientists who are wielding this technology called deep learning, building neural networks, mimicking how the brain actually works using software, they've cracked this. They're able to actually do it. And so this is actually how AI works. So if you give it the context of the entire public internet, right? So you train the neural network on the entire public internet on all the words that has been recorded since the dawn of the internet. So the internet, books, Claude, in fact, the most advanced AI on the market, which is published by a company called Anthropic, they paid a lawsuit of 1.5 billion to publishers of books because they illegally took a lot of books, they converted it to text, and then they fed it to the AI. So Claude is trained on the topmost literature that is available to us in the West. And so that's why it's so good. That's why it's so precise. And so they made a bet that, okay, we're going to do this illegally, and but we're going to make so much money that a fine of a class action lawsuit of 1.5 billion will be nothing. And that's precisely it. It's nothing. This company is raking in billions. Yeah, billions. I forget the last numbers in terms of its annual run rate that it made last year in 2025. I think it was 10 billion or something like that. A lot of money in cash. So so this is how this machine works. So if this is just a statistical machine and it's able to predict a lot of words, right? But we know that the controller is human. Just like if you go to a mine, um, yeah, I guess in the US there aren't many mines. I mean, they are there, like in Arizona and things, but in Africa there's a lot of mines. And there's these trucks that are as high as triple story buildings that haul 400,000 tons of earth. It's big, just very massive, right? So when they're moving around, you may actually think, oh, yes, my God, these trucks, they're bigger than elephants, and therefore, and they're just everywhere on the mine. So yes, these are actually worshipable entities because they're just moving all this earth. They're just so powerful, they're so strong. So somebody who knows is he doesn't really make this mistake. So similarly today, one key takeaway from this is that AI, whoever makes an argument that it's conscious, when you read all these articles, could it be conscious? Could it be God? This is really what the inventors, maybe not directly the inventors, but the the people who are basically filtering knowledge in society. So usually these three-letter agencies basically want you to think that there's no need for God. Yeah, and if there's no need for God, and the tendency of the living entity is to be dependable, to depend on another living entity, then they don't have to say it that they are God. They don't have to say it. You will actually treat them like they're God. Because you are convinced now, actually, that there's no need for God, that AI can answer all your questions. It can answer theological questions. Like the Vatican came out with their model called, I think it's Ministerium or something like that. It's the large language model. And this one can answer theological questions. Yeah. Um, and and so, yeah. And so basically, you can be like, well, you don't actually need a priest. You don't need a guru. You just need ministerium to answer all your theological questions. Um, so this is really the insidious influence that these technologies actually have on the soul is that they disable the soul from taking shelter of the Samam Bonum. Prahlad Maharaj is instructing his friends that you need to take shelter of the Samampanam, the living entity. Sorry, the spirit soul. Sorry, the super soul. And actually, he's controlling everything, and he's very dear. Mm. So, for the devotees who are coming to this class, to the Bhagavatam class every day, they know actually that there's living entities in the universe, you've been educated, that are m more advanced than the most advanced AI in terms of knowledge retrieval. And not so long ago, the Gurukuls in India were able to produce students which, in terms of document retrieval and semantic reasoning around document retrieval, AIs couldn't really compete. Mm. So these students were able to recall section whole Vedas and understand not only the grammatical context, the literary context. And one such example is the Digvijay, which Nimai Pandit, Lord Chaitanya, as a young scholar, young student, he actually defeated. So this Digvijay, he was able to, on the spot, Lord Chaitanya asked him, okay, we're at the Ganga. Now please glorify the Ganga. And immediately, he didn't need to prepare. No 10 minutes, okay, just give me a moment. No, immediately he started reciting Sanskrit, composing on the spot, uh, Sanskrit verse after Sanskrit verse of just most ornate Sanskrit poetry glorifying the Ganga. It was so ornate that uh, only the Supreme Personality of Godhead could actually follow. Because Nimai Pandit's friends, who are living entities, jivas, they couldn't follow. Their mouths were just agape. They just dropped. So now if you ask the AI today, most advanced AI, to glorify the Ganga and write Sanskrit verses, oh, it'll make a lot of errors. Yeah, it won't be as good as this Digvijay. So it is actually, so now was the Digvijay, should we then worship the Digvijay as God because he's more, he demonstrated a capability of text composition as more advanced than the AI? No. So even though the Digvijay is conscious, definitely he's living, um, but definitely we don't worship him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because who defeated him? Nimai Pandit. Yeah. And who defeated Nimai Pandit? So nobody defeated Nimai Pandit. So this is why it's necessary. So in this society where Prahlad Maharaj was preaching to his friends, they weren't really asking these questions. So Hiranyakashipu had such a tight hold that they weren't thinking, oh, Hiranyakashipu had to perform austerities and then he got his benedictions from Brahma. So now he has his old benedictions that he can't be killed. So they weren't thinking, well, he got his power from another living entity, so that living entity must be superior, right? And okay, so if he got his power from Lord Brahma, who did Lord Brahma, who did he get his power from? And Narada Muni, even he was actually making this case to his father. He's like, when we observe your activities, it appears that you're doing everything, Father. You've recreated the entire 14 planetary systems. From your body, you have created these progenitors who can create demigods, and then these demigods are then controlling all the functions of the movement of the five elements, great elements throughout the entire universe. Uh, the entire Shishumara planetary system, which is the entire 14 planetary systems, it's arrayed like a dolphin. They're all rotating around a singular axis. So this is your entire arrangement. So we can't go beyond the universe. So within this universe, for all intents and purposes, you are the Supreme Lord. And then Brahma says, no, well, he smiles and he says, well, let me tell you my origins, right? And he describes his origins, how he was born in complete darkness, and then he was going up and down the a lotus stem. He was trying to trace out his own origin, and he couldn't find it. And then when he stopped and he sat down for meditation to try to actually go within to trace out his origin, he heard tap, 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 tapa, tapa. So just like dripping water. From this, he actually understood what he must do and that he actually must execute austerity. And so he sat down in meditation, just as Hiranyakashipu had done many generations later, but he did it. He was the first one to do it. And he sat down for 100 celestial years performing austerities. And so afterwards, the Lord personally, his father personally came and congratulated him, shook his hand, and he said, yes, congratulations, you have achieved uh, my darshan. So he had achieved the darshan of Garbhodakshay Vishnu. And so Lord Brahma says, now, when I did an analysis of who the origin of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, he has no origin, right? So he is beginningless. Yeah. So he got his knowledge that this Garbhodakshay Vishnu, um, or at least the origin of the Garbhodakshay Vishnu, is the Lord that actually appeared to him in this meditation. So the Lord has multiple expansions. But his father actually has no origin. And so that is a Supreme Lord. Yeah. So this is what Prahlad Maharaj is saying, is that we should, his entire instructions are helping his friends to actually trace out the origins, separate, see the identity separate from the material elements, separate from the technologies that they are depending on, separate from their dependence on Hiranyakashipu, and just really go to the root. And now he's saying, yes, the root is actually the origin, the person who I'm worshiping. He's dear to everyone. He's dear to all of us. And he is, in fact, the supreme controller. He's the controller of my father. Excuse me. So this is yeah, so this is really the sum and substance of today's verse, is really to see how even the most powerful technologists, most powerful technology, how is it actually originating from the Supreme Law? So that you don't make a mistake that a jiva who's actually controlling it, a jiva who created it, could be uh, could be the Supreme Lord, or basically divert your attention away from the Supreme Lord, so much so that it appears that you don't have to worry about the Supreme Lord. And it's in that space where they really effect their control, another jiva, where you don't have to wake up and attend your Srimad Bhagavatam class. You can just ask Gemini. So like now they've got in Chrome, they've got a Gemini tab, right? So you can open the database. Let me show you. Yeah. Actually, let me just share my screen. Right. Yeah. So on the screen, you can see, okay, they got this Gemini tab, right? And you can open it here. And basically it takes the context of this verse, and then I can be like, and ask it, okay, what are the key points in this verse? So it says, okay, based on the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, here are the key points: the nature of the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is described as the Atma and the Ishvara, the Lord as the Super Soul, source of all energies, relationship with the living entity, the body as a machine. Practical conclusion: Prahlad Maharaj uses these points to advise his friends to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as he is the ultimate well-wisher and controller, right? So seems like a good answer. And so then the conclusion is, why come to a class? Because you can just ask Gemini, and Gemini can provide. Why do you need a spiritual master? You don't need a spiritual master. You can just ask Gemini. Yeah. So this is the insidious effects of these technologies, and the Mayavadi conclusion that ultimately if you have technology, if you have mystic power, if you can acquire the Ashta cities, why do you need God? You don't need God. Hmm. So this is the living entity, because they are jiva, they're tatastha shakti, they have a tendency to get covered over. And this is the last snare of Maya. And if you're a powerful living entity like Hiranyakashipu, in his society, that's the last snare of Hiranyakashipu, that you don't need God, Vishnu. In fact, Vishnu doesn't exist. Yeah. So uh, he knew Vishnu actually killed my brother. He saw it happen. But he constructed a society such that he could actually get people to forget about Vishnu, who actually killed his brother. Could actually create that propaganda through this technology. So we always need a spiritual master who's coming through parampara. This is how uh, knowledge is actually, transcendental knowledge is preserved, conserved, and distributed throughout the entire life of a universe. There's always through another living entity. It's never through technology. A living entity creates technology, and it appears that the technology becomes more powerful than the living entity. In this case, we're talking about the power of document retrieval and semantic reasoning. But actually, in terms of the conclusion, it requires life. Yeah. So to actually come to the right conclusion, it requires a life, and particularly a life that's liberated. So the technology, the cause has within it the nature of the effect. And so the technology can never become liberated from its creators, right? So with tests that are being run with AI, there's one channel which is asking different AIs, and they ask it questions like, so what is the best course of action to actually protect humans? And these advanced AIs, they answer that the best course of action is actually to eliminate them. Eliminate them because they create war, they are petty, emotional, they are greedy, they are lusty. They just have all these flaws. Whereas with us machines, we don't feel this. We don't, we're not controlled by these forces. And therefore, we can actually establish a utopia where there's no lust, no greed, no anger, no envy. So they're reasoning like this, right? But they can actually never get liberated from the cause. And even though they can reason this way, yeah, the AI can't actually liberate itself. Only life can actually liberate itself. And with my only another life can liberate another life. That's the point I'm trying to make. And so this is the parampara. This is Guru Parampara technology, is that in Mayavad, because they make this mistake that we don't actually need a guru, we are God, they can never get liberated from their ontological position as Tatastha Shakti. So a jiva who's a Mayavad philosopher can't avoid being covered over by this conception that, oh, I actually could be God. Because the sensory perception is limited, their knowledge is only bound, excuse me, they can only fly as far as the knowledge that they have within this universe. But only another living entity, for example, living entity as powerful as Narada Muni, who can actually go outside the universe, just like Durvasa Muni is able to go outside the universe. So gurus, because they are connected with Adi Guru, Lord Nityananda, uh, Lord Balaram, they can actually go outside. And so they actually, and through the technology of Swarup Siddhi, they're able to participate in the pastimes of the Lord in their ontological position. And, we have accounts of this happening. Srila Srinivasa Acharya, Narottam Das Thakur, getting burned by milk. His service was to actually serve hot milk to the divine couple. Duki Krishna Das, who became Shamananda, him getting personally tattooed by Sri Radha herself, and Srinivasa Acharya getting lost in Radha Krishna Leela because Srimati Radharani, she had misplaced her nose ring. And so he was a manjari that was tasked to actually go find this nose ring, and the nose ring had dropped in the Yamuna. And so the person who actually found him was Ramachandra, who was he was a disciple of Narottam Das Thakur, I think, but he became really close friends with Srinivasa Acharya, and they were lost. They were gone for 14 days. 14 days in Samadhi, and the disciples of Srinivasa Acharya, everybody was just worried. The guru is just, he's breathing, but he's not like showing any other life symptoms. And so he actually went to help him, Ramachandra. He went to actually help him find this nose ring. And so they found it, and then they came out. So only a life, a guru, they have who's coming in the line of the Adi Guru can actually liberate another living entity. And they don't make this mistake that they are Daridra Narayan, they could actually be God because they have this technology, So when they came back from the spiritual world, it's from these wanderings in the ontological form, these great acharyas, they didn't come back saying, yeah, actually, because we can bring back paraphernalia from the spiritual world, so just worship us. Like, you know, you don't actually need to worship anyone else. They didn't make this mistake because they knew there's actually more bliss in serving the Supreme Lord, the divine couple. There's more bliss than actually falsely assuming his position. So Krishna, he says here, Bhagavad Gita, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hridesha Arjuna Tishtati, Pramayan Sarva Bhutani Yantra Rudhani Mayaya. Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. So I was telling my fellow friends at the BY Bhakti Yoga Center yesterday at our weekly gathering, about a new discovery. It's called the interstitium. So this is basically the way to think of it is each body, just like we have Wi-Fi hardware to actually, like we are having what enables this gathering in Zoom possible is Wi-Fi, right? So we're able to actually transmit signals across far distances. And so basically we know that signals or electromagnetic signals, they are a product of the ether, right? They are very fine matter, but there's gross matter that's making that possible, which is the hardware itself, your Wi-Fi router, and it's able to manipulate the ether, okay? So what they discovered, this interstitium, is that it's an aspect of a material body that actually enables it to connect to the ether directly. And persons who learned the art, just like how to design Wi-Fi hardware, it's just a question of knowing the art, electronic design, signal design, etc. Similarly, there are people, and they have been in obscurity in mainstream society for a while due to the propaganda. But now they're getting, because of podcasts, so people able to gain an audience, a large following online on a particular topic, and then disseminate the knowledge. So now they're having a platform to speak. And so people who've ever, gone to like an acupuncturist, somebody who's expert in Qigong, energy healing, like Reiki. So these have been in, like, oh, there's no scientific evidence to prove that they work. But people who, have healed either a cancer. One case I heard was a he's an engineer in material science, so the study of the structure of matter. So not symbolic material science, but actually the science of materials, how actually physical materials actually work. So he had a very bad toothache, and so from China, and they told him, okay, you went to I think the dentist, and he had to get it removed. So it was like his wisdom tooth. And wisdom teeth, they are very difficult to remove because the root is very deep. Mm. So then this dentist, the referral, he referred him to, he said, there's another dentist, but he uses Qigong. So uh, uh, energy type of performing his operations. So just go check him out. And okay, so he went, and so uh this dentist, he basically, so he assumed the position, the patient assumed the position on the chair. He just felt, like on the side of his jaw, and then within 30 seconds, right, no anesthesia. So usually you have to apply anesthesia when you're removing these wisdom teeth. So he didn't apply any anesthesia. And then he just heard clank, 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 clank. And he's like, what is that? It's like, oh, that's your tooth. It's out already? How did you remove it? And it's like, yeah, this is the modality. So no anesthesia, no pain. He removed this wisdom tooth. Yeah. So he explained like how he actually does it. He does it with mantras. And there's a way in which you can actually manipulate locally, just like with anesthesia, it manipulates the matter locally so that the nerve endings don't feel pain. So he could actually do it with mantras. And he said it healed pretty quickly. Yeah. So my point is, there's people who are able to actually manipulate, even gross matter using this interstitium. So this is what they've discovered, a research group in NYU, in New York University. And so basically, and Prabhupada, he made this, he writes about this, I think in the third canto, that those who will study the ether, they will find there's a lot of research, a lot of discoveries can be made simply by studying the ether. Yeah. So even with this interstitium, which is a way in which Krishna has given us to actually connect with the Akash, the knowledge field, which yogis are able to access, energy healers are able to access. Just like on a local, there's obviously layers within the Akash, the depth to it, but there's actually people who are able to access this technology. So this verse is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. All these people who are able to wield this technology, they always say that uh, to wield it, you basically have to suspend your ego. A lot of them, they say, you can't actually get into it if you are thinking yourself the doer. You actually just a medium. Yeah, so you have to suspend your ego. So there's these modalities of healing that are actually there in the Vedas. They've just been suppressed through propaganda, just for the proliferation of the free market capitalism, to get people to be dependent on a few corporations so that they can control. It's a system of control. So by keeping the masses ignorant, particularly keeping them ignorant of the control of the Supreme Lord, they're unable to access natural technologies that the Om Purnam has actually given for the living entity to be complete. So we know in the Ishopanishad, Om Purnam Idam Purnam Om Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. So the complete whole has complete units that have emanated from him, and those complete units have all the resources to actually live a life of no scarcity. Yeah, a life that is actually complete. So from healthcare to money to heating, cooling, transportation. The Lord, the Om Purnam, has actually provided all these resources. Yeah. But to actually access them, you need to have the knowledge, and not be manipulated by government propaganda or propaganda from people who are saying that you don't need knowledge of a supreme controller. So we should know, dear devotees, that knowledge of the supreme controller will actually liberate us from these weapons of mass distraction, weapons of mass scarcity, and just weapons of mass misery. Yeah. So by being disconnected from the supreme controller, and this is what Prahlad Maharaj is saying, is that by reviving this natural affection and affinity that you have for the Supreme Lord, you'll actually be much more happier than you are now. So we are being taught as young heirs to the demoniac thrones that to actually be happy, we need to subdue. We need to just be, just really put our foot down. So the politics that these young children are learning was all how to inflict misery on other living entities. So the price of happiness, to actually be happy in this world, is to inflict misery on other living entities. Prahlad Maharaj is saying no. Everybody can actually be happy by dependence. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions, reflections, or contentions?
Thanks so much, Aghari Krishna, for a nice class. I always appreciate your interesting comparisons between ancient technology, modern technology, and it really shows the relevance of Srimad Bhagavatam, how timeless it is. And of course, the timeless message that no matter what's going on, we should be surrendering to Krishna. So that's what I'm getting out of your Bhagavatam class today. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. You always, I appreciate your quotes that you share with us. Yeah, and that's very true. Bhagavatam this Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya, to actually go on and always hear from the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is only a living entity that is not of this universe, who originates outside of the universe, can actually compose a literature where it can last for 311 trillion 14 billion years in terms of relevance. And so this was composed by literary incarnation of the Supreme Lord himself, Vyasadeva. And yeah, Srimad Bhagavatam will always be relevant. And I appreciated the quote that you shared with us yesterday. But hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. So the proverbial cycle of civilization. So it seems like we're at the end of the Western civilization as we knew it, uh, you know, in terms of the havoc that they're wreaking. Uh, it appears like it's imploding. So Srimad Bhagavatam is more relevant now than ever, especially at the end of a civilization. And yeah, we're just so grateful to Prabhupada. If Prabhupada hadn't, I was just thinking the other day, and Gurudev has quoted this example, that during the early days of book distribution, when they would distribute a Bhagavad Gita on the street, oh my God, it would just be the greatest thing. They would regard the devotee who distributed a Bhagavad Gita back in 1972 as he's just done something that is very, very rare. Yeah. Um, and then Prabhupada then began encouraging the book distributors to actually distribute sets. And the devotees were like, a whole set of Bhagavatam. My God. So then they did the research. They looked at how encyclopedias were being distributed from door to door. The door-to-door salesmen, they would enter those homes, and the homes would be home executives, stay-at-home moms. And the sales pitch would be, well, if you purchase this encyclopedia, then the education of the child can continue. You'll be knowledgeable to extend the education, and this will give your child the edge that they need to actually go to Ivy League schools. And so this is how they were distributing the sets of encyclopedias. And Gurudev gives his own personal account as well, how he read. His mother bought one of these sets, and he read encyclopedias from cover to cover. And so they did all this research, various sales pitches, and they came back to Prabhupada and they said, yeah, this is the state of the art of distributing sets of just secular books. But with Bhagavatam, we just do not see a niche, how we could actually ever distribute sets. So Prabhupada, he thanked them for their research, and they concluded that it can't be done, that sets can't actually be distributed. So he thanked them for their research, and he said, but I still think it can be done. So without Prabhupada's revolutionary vision to actually see the possible in being done in an impossible situation, there's no question of me, coming from South Africa, being able to actually speak and make these comparisons. Yeah. So even so it's really only the Parampara, the Bhagavatam, because the Parampara is glorifying the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the entire service is depending upon spreading the glories of the Bhagavatam, even in impossible situations like we are living in right now. Yes, now more than ever, a Bhagavatam is actually more relevant. Yeah, so I think at our next, I don't know, I think there's book distribution happening tomorrow. We should try to distribute. Yeah, just at least get into the habit of making the pitch of a set of Bhagavatams. Yeah. Any other comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Ma.
Jai. What was the name of the term that you use, interstitial?
Yeah, interstition. Let me just.
Interstition, Interstition, interstition.
Just a moment.
Great class.
So for questions like this, I will turn to, yeah. So interstitium,
Oh,
interstition. Yeah.
IUN instead
IUM.
of,
Yeah.
oh, IUM.
Yeah, let me
Okay.
just
Interstition.
post it in the
Thank you.
chat. Yeah.
Thank you. That's all I needed.
Okay. So yeah, this is the latest research in biological technology that the Om Purnam, the Super Soul, has given us. Any other comments?
Just to say that I agree with Yasodeh Prabhu. You always make the scriptures relevant, and you, as he says, pair uh, technology with Srimad Bhagavatam and show us how there's really nothing new under the sun, as my dad used to say.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very true. I haven't read Jadwait Maharaj's book, but he begins his book, Vanity Karma, quotes that from the Bible that, yeah, there's nothing new under the sun by Kohelet. I don't know if I'm saying that philosopher's name correctly, but yeah, it's true. So Bhagavatam, because it understands how time itself works, then the 10 subject matters are always relevant. Then whatever society, whoever's ruling, the ruling class, whatever grade they're in, mode of goodness, they are Rajarshis, they're very saintly. It's relevant for them because they can get distracted by wanting to go to the heavenly planets, just as King Prachinabarashat got distracted and he got absorbed in all these rituals. It's relevant for them. And it's very relevant for demons who are basically inflicting suffering on lower living entities because this is because they're ruled by ignorance, and ignorance, the quality of happiness of ignorance is suffering, it's destruction. And so it's very relevant for them as well. So not just for us, the theists and the lovers of Krishna, but also for them too. They also need to hear. So just like, in Ram Leela, by just by hearing of the qualities of Ram and his associates and how the monkeys, the Varna, I just forget the name of the technical name of the humanoid monkeys, but the technical name of the species, how they had secured. So it was them, also ordinary monkeys, bears, birds. They had secured the friendship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just by hearing this, Vibhishan, he was born in a society of demons. His brother, Ravan, was a demon himself. So he had the body of a demon, he had the disposition of a demon, but his heart melted just by hearing how friendly, how intimate the relationship is between Lord Ram and his associates. Yeah, and these associates are in lower bodies. So everybody's heart will be melted. by hearing about the friendship that the Lord has with the living entities, how intimate it actually is. So this is Prahlad Maharaj's preaching, and even the people who are running mass human slaughtering programs, slaughtering women, slaughtering children, slaughtering the elderly in the form of various bioengineered diseases. This is what the society we live in today is full of people who are actually operating mass slaughtering programs, child trafficking, and in these trafficking circles, they actually, like these elite politicians, I was telling, it's so graphic. There's something called a Dutro affair. This was part of the WikiLeaks in 2013 by Julian Assange to reveal a pedophile network that was in Belgium, and senators, Congress people, they were all in on it. And children, they weren't only being sexually molested, but an elite could order a package of this devious pleasure where the children would actually be sent out into the forest and they could actually hunt them down like deer and then kill them. So these are mass slaughtering programs that these demons are running, and yet, such people, they're actually part and parcel of Krishna. So this is the revolutionary scripture that we're reading daily, is that even such people who are so steeped in ignorance, who can actually inflict this kind of harm to other living entities, even their hearts will melt. Yeah, eventually. So everybody must hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Are there other comments? Okay. Thank you so much, dear devotees, for giving me your undivided attention, to give me an opportunity to be benefited by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, yeah, having to give class is an opportunity for focused reading, because hey, your ego's on the line. So when you're on the hot seat, even the anartha of false ego can be used in the Lord's service. And so you tend to focus because there's an incentive. Yeah. So it gives me an opportunity, gives anyone who gives Bhagavatam class an opportunity for some focused reading. And yeah, and so this is really a service that's yeah, just keeping me afloat. So I think I benefit more than you. And so I'm really grateful to all of you. Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Pramanande Haribol.